I'm always interested in how Bill Landis is feeling. I always want to know how Ari Wasserman is feeling. Nobody cares how I'm feeling. But today we're talking about how Ohio State... Are you standing on a stepladder?
I'm tired.
You're taller than Landis. He's 6'5".
I'm tired of being the shortest. Okay.
That's like you're on like 8 inches of mulch. I've never seen you that high. It was like you were flying. We're talking today about how Ohio State feels going into this game at Michigan State on Saturday. There are some interesting emotions, it feels like, floating around the Woody Hayes Athletic Center as we talked to coaches and players on Monday. Ohio State's an underdog in this game. They're not used to being an underdog. Some guys embrace that. Some guys don't want to be that. Some guys are talking about they are remembering the loss to Michigan State last year. Some guys say, that doesn't matter. There does seem to be an intensity here because this is a team that, is up there with Ohio State. Ohio State's trying to get respect nationally. Bill Landis, what are you vibing on? What's the feeling you got from Ohio State today talking to these guys about how Ohio State feels?
I haven't been in this building during a Michigan week, so I'm not quite sure what that's like, but if it's more intense than this, which is what everyone was saying, and I'm sure you guys would know more than I do, I can't imagine what that looks like because it was pretty intense in there today. It was usually these days we come in and it's kind of a more lighthearted atmosphere. Guys are joking around, asking silly questions and stuff like that. Well, you were asking some silly questions, but it was intense. Guys were dialed in. I mean, someone asked Taylor Decker how he feels about being an underdog. He said, "I never feel like I'm an underdog." So they're fired up. I mean, it's good to see. I guess that's what you want to do if you're Ohio State. But this game is certainly different. It's that much is noticeable.
Did you think we had two different guys say? One say last year didn't matter, the loss to Michigan State in the Big Ten title game, that doesn't matter. The other guy said that's a huge motivating force. Who do you believe?
This game absolutely matters. They said this after the Illinois game. They said, I think it was Taylor Decker said, they watched the Illinois game to make some corrections very briefly, and then the first thing they watched was the Big Ten championship game last year. So you can say this game doesn't matter, but it clearly does if that's the first thing you're watching. So I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah, I don't think they're forgetting that. Ari, what do you think about the idea of Ohio State maybe being an underdog trying to fight for some national respect? I mean, normally Ohio State's the team that everybody is shooting for. Do you think that at all could be, I don't know, some kind of reverse psychology good thing for them?
The interesting thing to me is that Ohio State, for the first 2 years under Urban Meyer during the regular season, was untouchable on the recruiting trail. They were untouchable on the field. They won their first 24 games, and Urban Meyer was the king of the world in this city. He still is. But the fact is that every time Ohio State stepped off of that in the time since, even a home loss to Virginia Tech, they've lost the biggest games. And I don't know underdog is a reality. They are an underdog. And I'm assuming they use that as motivation, but the fact is Ohio State needs to win this game to prove that it isn't only a team that beats up on inferior talent. It has to win a big game under Urban Meyer. They haven't done it yet. And, what this means for the playoff and all that stuff down the line isn't necessarily as important as Ohio State proving that, it's capable of doing that. It has to prove it. It hasn't done it yet, and it's a big cloud, I feel like, that's hanging over just from a national perception standpoint and just, Ohio State being what it used to be.
We know it's the game that everybody's been waiting for all year. One of the interesting things today, Tim Hinton, who coached under Mark D'Antonio at Cincinnati before D'Antonio went to Michigan State, said Mark D'Antonio was great at finding little slights to blow it up and make it bulletin board material. And he said he's sure that Michigan State will find something this week to make it feel like, okay, here's motivation, nobody respects us. It's always interesting when you have two overdogs. These are good teams. These are top 10, top 15 national powerhouse teams. We know the Big Ten doesn't get respect sometimes. These are the two teams that do get respect. And I think to some degree they're fighting for the underdog label. Nobody wants to be the team that's supposed to win this game. I think everybody wants to be nobody respects us, when actually these are the only two teams in the Big Ten that anybody does respect. So I do think some of this stuff is going to matter. Whichever coaching staff, whichever whatever captains, whichever leaders can find the right motivational thing, I think is going to factor in on Saturday.
I don't know that a lot of people outside in the country respect Ohio State. I mean, I know that they're viewed as a team that's most talented from this conference, but I don't know if from a national perspective, people believe that this team is good enough to go out and beat the best teams from other conferences. So, I think the motivation stuff is so important, and I don't want to downplay it, but the fact is you want motivation, they have to prepare the right way and win this game. I mean, it's not about who's the underdog and how people feel. That stuff comes after, in my opinion. If they lose this game, then how far even further is this program set back from a national perspective? They can't afford to lose it, and that's more important, I would think, to this team than what people think they are in terms of whether they're an underdog or not.
Ari doesn't like to talk about feelings.
Urban Meyer talked about that today too. So someone asked him, "Is this a game where Ohio State gets back some of the national credit?" And he said, "This is a game where we could get back the national credit that Ohio State deserves." So I think they're looking at it from that standpoint too. Their standing in the Big Ten is obviously important. The winner of this game goes to the Big Ten championship, and you can't do anything if you don't win the Big Ten championship. But I think it's bigger, in Urban Meyer's eyes especially, that Ohio State, I think he knows Ohio State has maybe lost it a bit when it comes to how they're respected nationally, and this is a game he feels they can get some of that back.
And whatever else is true, Michigan State is the Big Ten champion right now. What were you going to say?
I just don't understand why ladybugs always land on Landis. Sorry. There's one on his pants, and it's like the 5th ladybug I've seen. And yeah, they are the Big Ten champions. And, I mean, they are, right? They
are, yeah,
did
that's
a
a
very
fact.
good job of going out and earning some respect for the conference and beating Stanford in the Rose Bowl last year. Because if they would have lost, then it's completely, you're the tallest.
Right.
I mean, so.
No, I mean, it is, and all this is going to factor in. And again, we've talked about this before with games like this. The Big Ten needs a good game. They need both teams to play well. I'm not sure in the end if it matters that much for the Big Ten who wins. I think Michigan State probably has half a step on Ohio State in the playoff mix right now because their loss is better, and they've already beaten Nebraska, which is better than any Ohio State win. But I think Ohio State would be in a similar mix if they got there. But bottom line, they both have to look like good, competent teams that could compete. So coverage all week. We are treating this like Michigan week. Apparently nobody else is. I'm asking people if they can wear green and can they say Michigan State's name, and people are looking at me like I'm nuts. But it's that big to us. So follow us all week with the coverage here on cleveland.com. For Ari Wasserman, Bill Landis, I'm Doug Lesmerises.